Hello, everyone. I'm Liv.
I'm Mia.
I'm Andrew.
And today, based on the book, Because Internet, in the chapter 4 about typographical tone of voice, we're going to be talking about how our tone in our text changes depending on who we're talking to, based on if it's a parent, authority figure, and etc. So what we're going to be doing is examining our different texts that we all have with our friends and family and how they compare to each other. So first we can start with close friends.
Good.
Okay, so in Liv's text with her close friends, what I noticed most were a lot of abbreviations like IDK, IDEK, AF, WTF, and WYD. These are definitely more casual things that you would say to someone that you obviously knew. You wouldn't be saying this to someone like a boss or another authority figure. You might not even say some of them to your parents. Like, I don't know. So it depends on if you're swearing with your parents or not, I guess. But definitely, like, you can tell that this relationship is more casual and close because it's using a lot of abbreviations.
That's true. I did notice that I use abbreviations a lot, especially because I know that she understands what they are and that we both use them. So it's like we base abbreviations off of each other, which is interesting. Based off of these texts, it reminded me of something that this author Katy said in her article in Time, Why Technology Has Not Killed the Period. And she said that she discovers the mirror of punctuation or other texts between people and how we adapt our text to how the other one communicates, creating unique habits in each conversation, which is interesting because you can definitely see how the abbreviations and the punctuation reflect each other in my conversation with my close friend here.
I wanted to talk about one of my close friend texts between one of my best friends and I, Kyle. So I'm just looking at my text right now, and these are from like a year or two ago. And basically what we do is we would put an S on the end of every like word we'd say, just because like it's funny, I guess. So I'll just read to you one of our texts. So I said, "What's ups?" and he said, "Sups." And we were just like talking, and then he said, "Are you coming by tomorrow's or tonight's?" And I said, "Tomorrow's." So like we would like just put the S on the end, but that's something like we don't do anymore, completely irrelevant, but it's just like funny how like trends and stuff work. So yeah.
Thing because you can also see that in like tone. Like in some of my texts, I notice how I'm being really sarcastic, and some people that I know can't take sarcasm well, like I wouldn't use that habit with them. Like in one of my texts, I said, get some free dinner, referring to a date
Yeah.
I didn't think she should go on. And
I saw that.
yeah, and she said, honestly, yeah. And I said, actually, be like rain check. So I just noticed that often reflect each other's tone of voice and certain slang that we use.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to add one more thing. So like I would do that with like a few friends. So there's like 3 of us would do that. And like the more and more we'd say stuff like that, like more people would catch on to it. So we had another friend that started saying it. And I haven't talked to the kid in like probably like a year. And he like texted me like randomly the other day, and he was like what's ups? And I'm like we don't talk like that anymore, dude. Like I don't know why you're saying that. And like it was just completely random, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Like he said that.
Yeah, like he
he
texted me, like I'm not close with him at all.
Like he like still talks like that, you're
Yeah,
saying,
no,
or he did that because he knows that you like it was like a thing with you guys?
exactly. Like he knows it was a thing, so like he thought it would
Oh,
be.
weird.
Yeah,
Like trying to fit in.
exactly. Yeah.
I feel like it's like a warm greeting, like trying to be like nice. I don't know. I noticed that I use like ... at the end of some of my texts for some reason as like it like sets a mood of like an open-ended question, I guess you could say. Like
I wrote that about you. I said, I was like, Mia uses ellipses when she's talking about a suggestion and she wants a response about like an open-ended like comment that she says.
that's so good. Well, there you go. Yeah, I guess that's exactly what I was doing. I didn't even realize, like, I didn't notice that I would do that sometimes. Like, in one of them, I wrote, "I'm craving the beach tomorrow, ... And I, like, wasn't, like, asking my roommate, let's go to the beach, or, like, do you want to go to the beach? It was like, what do you think about this? Like, what is your opinion?
Yeah,
So,
like the ... over the question mark is like, it's not urgent. It's like, what are your thoughts? You said, the Levi's jacket I'd get my man ... Like I was kind of like, because and then she responded if
she meant to say love. I don't know why she said lover, but
yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. That's like a different use of that. Like it is also like open-ended, like wanting the other person's like response about it, but it was kind of like this is the jacket. Like I don't know how to describe what the tone I was trying to use in that, but it was kind of you know what I mean? Like it kind of makes the sentence feel different than if it were just left without the ellipses.
Yeah. Like if we tried, for the viewers or listeners, if we tried to say, like, if we put an exclamation point, like the Levi's jacket, man.
Yeah.
That's too assertive.
That's too serious. That's like too, like when I sent that to my friend, it was like, this jacket is so sick. Like, but she doesn't really like that type of style. So it was like me being like, I like this jacket. It's so cool, but like you probably wouldn't. But I wasn't like being super serious about it. You know what I mean? Like it was like a $1,000 jacket or something. And I was just like, I was sending it as kind of like a funny text. But if I were to like put an exclamation mark, it would just sound like I was trying to say something completely different. I feel like I was being serious, like really serious. Like
exactly.
I don't know. Like I guess I am just because I do like the jacket, but
yeah, if you use an exclamation point or a period, I feel like it would sound like you do have a man and you are trying to get this jacket for him.
Yes, but right. I don't have a man. I don't have the money for the jacket.
Yeah, the ... makes it so like you can kind of assume that it's just a hypothetical, I guess.
Right. Yes. Good. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So moving on from close friends and just circling back to parent texts and how we're going to relate that, I noticed that in some of Andrew's texts, his use of question marks with his mom is interesting because, and I also noticed it kind of with his friends, that they use question marks when they need an immediate answer. Like he talks to his mom and he says something casual like, I'm good, how are you? He doesn't use a question mark, and his mom will just respond saying how she is and asking how's school. But when he actually needs to know the answer and he says stuff like, where are you? Or, yeah, mom, what? Are you good? He uses question marks because he's actually concerned with the answer. Whereas when he's saying, how are you? He's just chilling and it's more casual. So I've noticed that his question mark adds some emphasis on what he's saying.
Right. It's like urgency.
Yeah, I honestly agree with that because I see that in my texts with my friends too, like anyone. I feel like if I'm just in a conversation with them or even my parents, like if I'm like, do you want to go to the beach tomorrow? I feel like I wouldn't use the question mark, but if I'm texting my mom and I'm like, can you buy me this? I feel like I would use a question mark because it's more of a serious, like urgent thing that needs like, that I'm more serious about versus just like a casual, like, oh, do you want to go do this or something like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very true because in your texts, when your friend asks for your address, she uses a question mark because she like needs to know where to go and it's like but when you guys say something like you said you want to see, it's like that's not urgent. You're just wondering
Right.
to see, so you don't use a question mark.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of that.
One thing I wanted to point out with like our parents' text is like me, I'm just going through your text right now, and I see like your dad responds with the capital K or whatever, like he'll say K.
Yeah.
And my mom does the same thing, and I think it's funny because like to some people like our age, like that could come off as like rude or whatnot, but like to them it's just like normal, I guess. Like I don't know.
Right. No, that's such a good point. It's
Yeah.
like, and my dad will always send me K, and
Yeah.
I take it the wrong way all the time. Like we'll be having a great conversation or something, or like he'll be asking me something and I respond and he'll just say K. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are you mad? But
Literally
that's
today, my mom sent me the K, and I'm like, okay, I'm just not gonna say anything.
Also,
yeah, that's
like,
a perfect example of passive aggressiveness in text because of just like differences in how people text. And that also kind of relates to like the ... in between like fragments, just like phrases or whatever. So like, you know, and like if someone texts you like a paragraph, instead of a period, they do ... and then another sentence and ... and you're like, what are they trying to say? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of awkward. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're trying to be aggressive about something. And I kind of get that same feeling from K, even though it's just like an easier way to say okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing is, like, since we know it's a parent or if it's authority, we're fine with it because we expect that they don't really understand like our generation. Like, for example, like having to do with both the ... and the okay or the K. In Andrew's text with the authority, he like all the time he's like okay ... okay ... and he talks about something else. He goes ... cool. Okay ... I'll wait for you. Okay ... for sure Tuesday night. And Andrew just replies normally because he knows like he's a different generation.
Yeah,
I mean,
but if that's someone else.
Yeah, this is my screen printer, Jose, and he can barely speak English, but I think it's so funny because like I can always tell like what kind of mood he's in and like whatnot, because he'll be like whenever he uses the ... it's like he's like not in a good mood always, because I'll get there and it's like he's not all happy to see me and whatnot. But yeah, it's hilarious. But
so he is meaning them in that way, I guess.
yeah,
Like,
I mean somewhat. I mean it's not really like an authority, like it's more like just a business relationship, but it's funny to me because his texting, it's like it just comes off in so many different ways.
Yeah. Like something else he uses, which I think we all use, like exclamation points to show like happiness or enthusiasm. Like he said, like your order is ready, exclamation point, exclamation point. And then like in Mia's texts, like when you're talking to your friends or anyone, it's like, OMG, like exclamation point, proud of you, exclamation point. Or like have fun, exclamation point, exclamation point. Like it's always happy, I feel like. And
yeah, I was noticing a lot of exclamation points in like all of them. Like every sentence ended with one, which is like just shows like your kind of energy like that you're trying to put forth, I think. Like well, I guess there's less with like your close friends, but definitely with like someone you just met or your hairdresser. I noticed in the paragraph sender, you're like, hey, it's Liv. and then every single sentence besides the last one ends with an exclamation point.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even realize that. That's so funny.
That's kind of crazy. And I think that, so this is what I was going to try to say earlier, and then I totally screwed it up. When I was reading in the book on page 123, it said the exclamation point is frequently repurposed to indicate warmth and sincerity rather than just excitement. So I feel like in these instances, you're less like super excited to be texting your hairdresser and more just like trying to come across as warm and friendly and like, you know what I mean? Like a nice person.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of, like all three of us use exclamation points when we're talking to people we don't know as well.
Yeah.
We're trying to come across, like they don't know us yet. They don't know if we're nice. So we have to show them that we're nice, like before we meet them.
Right. And I think it's also, like we have been talking about this, like you can come across so differently over text. Like you can come across passive aggressive, and like by including those exclamation points, like we're making sure that that person doesn't see us like that by just, even though it's just like normal texting to just have like a period or something, we're just like trying to make sure that nothing is taken the wrong way.
It's like we have to overcompensate for the possibility that they think it's going to be passive aggressive. Like when you said to your landlord, you were like, thanks for letting us know about the parking, exclamation point. Or you also said to someone you just met, you said, ooh, yes, that sounds perfect, exclamation point, exclamation point. Like you're just trying to be like really, really nice so that they have no chance to think that you're aggressive in person.
Right. Like very like agreeable and like appreciative. Yeah. Like overly appreciative. Like if my friend, for example, were to text, so I had like those exclamation points and she just said she made like a shared doc or whatever. And if that were to be a conversation with one of my close friends, I probably would have just been like, thanks. Or like, just like wouldn't really have been that overly dramatic and like appreciative because they know that I appreciate like their actions. I don't have to show it over text, but with someone that you don't know well, especially because I actually never met this girl. It was just for a school project. I wanted to make sure that she knew that I was appreciating what she did for the project.
Also with Liv's text between your close friend Ellie, I noticed like when you guys don't capitalize a lot of your stuff, so like you'll start like a chain of sentences like in lowercase. And like, I don't know, like, why do you do that?
I don't know.
Why do you do that?
I've always like, I don't know. A lot of people do that, and I just want to know, like why.
Well, some people have like a setting on their thing where it starts sentences lowercase.
I have that.
You do?
Oh, so there you go.
Yeah, I do have that. But I also think the reason that I did it in the first place is because it feels like an ongoing conversation.
Okay.
Like, I feel like if there's a capital in the beginning and we're always typing capital back and forth, like it feels like a new point is starting over. But
that's very true. It feels more like an actual verbal conversation than just like I don't know, it almost reminds you of like an email situation where you're like capitalizing everything and it's more formal versus like just being totally lowercase and like not using periods and whatnot. Like it's definitely more of a conversational tone. And I noticed that in my own stuff too. I mean, I do have capitals just because I have like the autocorrect thing or whatever, but I don't put periods a lot, like with any of my texts, like unless it's in a paragraph or like there's a text stream or a text, what do you call that? I don't know. And there's like more than one sentence in it, then I'll use a period, but at the end I never do.
Yeah, I feel like actually I read that in an article in the same source as earlier. Katy said to begin, she notices that periods are used 60% of the time in text longer than 72 characters. And I noticed that we don't often use periods because our texts often aren't that long, unless in authority we have longer texts. But if it was a closer friends, for example, in Mia's text, she'll say like, true, next text, the Levi's jacket I get my man, next text, and if I was rich, like, and those, that creates the breaks in itself, like your different processes in place of a period, which I notice a lot.
I wrote something down in my notes that says periods replaced with line breaks when used in a neutral setting. So basically, if it's like doesn't really have any meaning, no like formal purpose, line breaks will get the job done rather than periods.
That's so true, because in Andrew's text, like with his best friend, like obviously that's pretty casual. Like he'll say, yes, bro. And then like text he'll say like OMG or whatever. Or his friend will be like, yes, I know. Next text, I'm just saying. Next text, what do you mean? Or like all of his are just line breaks because it's super casual. But then if you move on to like you talking to authority, like you say all in one paragraph, like, hey Jose, exclamation point, I just wanted to come out, blah blah blah, period, do you know, blah blah blah, question mark, like all in one paragraph, because it's more like of a serious setting.
Right. And also, like with my best friends, like we barely text. Like I had to pick, like I had like no, like barely like any text to choose from. Like we mostly just FaceTime. Like he'll FaceTime me or I'll FaceTime him, and like that's another thing. Like when we're texting, it's mostly like, oh, what are you doing, or like, what's up. But it, for the most part, it's just gonna be like line breaks and whatnot because we're always on the phone.
Yeah, it's kind of like a random thought. Like for me, at least, like if I text my friends, it's like, oh, I think of them, or I see a picture and I think of them, or thought of something and like, or want to ask them a specific question, versus like normal conversations I have with my close friends will be and like, or on the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why, like, it's funny because our parents, for me at least, like my mom texts me all the time, and like compared to my friends, like I FaceTime them more than I text them, like you guys. So with my mom, it's like she more than I respond, just because I'm not used to like an in-depth conversation on text.
Yeah.
Me too. I feel like my mom's always texting me things and I forget to respond and I feel bad. But yeah, I'm just not used to it as much, I guess. I chose the text with my dad because I thought they had a little bit more context than the ones with my mom. She just sends me pictures of my dog all the time. So my tone, I noticed with my dad, is very kind of like neutral. Like there's no exclamation points, at least from my end. It's like very, it's like normal talking, like normal spelled words. Like I don't know, I'm not like super like enthusiastic about anything, and that doesn't mean like I don't like my dad or anything. It's just like my relationship with him is very like subdued and like calm kind of in a way. It's not like, I don't know if that's making any sense. Like with my friends, like I get really excited or I'll text like them weird stuff, and with my dad it's very like kind of normal, or like he'll be checking up on me and he'll send me a song that he likes, and like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you notice anything like that.
I noticed that in your text with your dad. I literally like noted like you and your dad only use periods, so you sound monotone. Like you don't use exclamation points or whatever. Like some of the sources I was reading, for example, like the period is pissed is one of the sources I read. Ben Crair from New Republic wrote that in the past, without texting, periods were used in writing to represent a pause. And then now, since line breaks are used to create the pause, the period adds meanings that the audience must interpret. Oftentimes, it's hostile or disappointing or just neutral. And in the other one, the source from earlier, Katy said that periods are used in a more sincere and sympathetic way. So it kind of shows like you guys in your texts, like you and your dad, you're not like laughing all the time, like ha 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 exclamation point. You're like actually, when he sends you that song and he's like, how do you feel about this? You're like, I loved the message. I don't even know. What did you say to him?
Yeah, I said, that is a really good song with a good message. Thanks for sending. It's not like, thanks for sending, exclamation point. I love George, like George Harrison. I love George. It's not like that. It's like, I love George.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a great song.
It's like
very
sincere
weird
and more serious. You're like,
but it's bizarre because that's like how my dad is in person. Like, he's not serious or anything. It's just very like calm. Like, he's a very calming person to me. So like when I text him, I kind of feel like I reflect that, and he does too. Like, and then I noticed too, I was looking, we literally only use periods. We don't use question mark. We don't use exclamation points, only periods. Like, even when I'm asking, or he asked me, do you have my digital scale? No question mark. And then I said, is mom at work? No question mark. How are you doing? No question mark.
Yeah.
Weird. I'm getting a sub sandwich for Reed. Do you want anything? No question mark.
Yeah.
Bizarre. I don't know.
Exactly. So it's like, if he calms you in person, so that's the way that he talks on text, like he's reflecting his personality. So then, like we were talking about earlier, like these unique habits, like you're mirroring his texting habits and like being calm and just being, I love George.
Yeah. I love George. So another thing that's interesting is when people extend their words by adding more letters to words. So in the book Because the Internet by Gretchen McCulloch, I don't know how to say her last name, she says, quote, repeating letters is an expressive tool that's been growing for over a century in informal writing, not just on the internet, end quote. And so basically in my text, I found it in a text between me and one of my close friends. And I say, also, I got your sweet letter the other day. Made me so, so happy. I've been so busy. I forgot to text you. I'll send you something back. And I guess me using that was kind of me trying to sound sincere and like loving. That makes any sense. Like, yeah. I don't really know why it's such a weird thing to add letters on, but it was, I don't know. What do you think about it?
No, I think that's true. It makes you sound more sincere and more like kind and soft. Like in the same conversation with this friend, she says, what's your address? You give her the address and she's like, thank you. So it just like adds like some happiness, or like if she was just like, thank you, or you were just like, also, I got your sweet letter. It sounds more like short and aggressive.
Yeah, it sounds like more robotic, kind of like this adds some like personality or like a personal touch to it, I guess.
Yeah, like
a weird way.
I also did that, and I feel like it reflects the same thing, kind of. Like my friend said gas, like with a bunch of S's when I said I could hang out with her. And then I said, okay, dope, with like 4 E's. So I think that's also kind of showing a little bit of warmth instead of just like gas, okay, dope. It was like gas, okay, dope. I don't know.
I have an example too. Yeah, my friend Ethan, when he texts me like every morning, and it's always something. But in this one, he says, "What?" with like 7 T's, and it's like he's like pissed off or something. Like he just drags it out. Or he'll also say like "bruh," like with like a ton of like say stuff like that. Like he was pissed because he lost a whole bunch of money in the stock market. So it was like "bruh," and he like texted some stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely adds emotion when you add letters. Like if he just said bruh, or if we just said dope, or thanks. Like it's not the same as when you're like, bruh, dope.
Yeah. Add some like drama or like exaggeration to something to get your point across more.
Yeah, definitely.
And it kind of also reminds me of when we were talking about the exclamation mark, because that we were saying how that indicates like warmth and sincerity. It's not just for excitement, which is like its normal purpose. And like this could be like extending letters could be like excitement, but it also could be like warmth. It could be like other emotions. It doesn't have to just like be one thing.
Right.
Like exclamation mark.
Right. Like I noticed we often use exclamation marks with thank you or thanks because like that's showing like emotion, like thank you. Or like when Andrew was talking to his friend Ethan, his friend was like fly back with like a ton of exclamation points because he wanted to show like that he cared. Or
Yeah.
Yeah. And now when he was talking about one of the stocks, he's like, fly back, baby. And he was like saying all this stuff.
I feel like when we use all caps, it like shows our enthusiasm and like the text, or like that we really mean what we're saying. Like for example, when Mia was talking to her friend Audrey, her like get it, or, like, Mia, 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 Mia. And I don't know why I'm screaming, but I feel like that's what it sounds like when you look at all caps. It looks like they're screaming, or like, bro, we're almost at 1,000. Like obviously she was excited if it's all caps.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and obviously we were excited in that moment, so it makes sense that she would talk like that. Book, because internet, McCulloch says, quote, all caps to indicate strong feeling may be the most famous example of typographical tone of voice, quote. And I think that's pretty true. I feel like everyone kind of uses that at some point because it's such an easy way to get like a tone across. Like it could be like your mom that's super mad at you and she's like in all caps yelling at you over text trying to get her point across, or it could be excitement or just enthusiasm, like I love you in all caps. Like
Exactly.
It's one of the easiest ways to show someone like what you mean. I feel like it's not like a confusing thing like the period or the exclamation mark. Senses, I feel like.
Yeah, because all caps isn't really used in like books or anything. Like we know other uses of periods and exclamation points in books, but since this is all new digitally, I feel like we all, like authority, parents, friends, whatever, we're all aware that it means there's enthusiasm behind the text and that we're kind of like yelling in a way, whether it's good or bad. I think overall today we've learned by examining these texts with all these different people that our tone of voice really changes when we're talking digitally based on if we're talking to an authority figure or a friend. It really changes based on the relationship we have with them and based on how we want to come across in our minds. And we learn overall and develop a culture with our generation or mirroring the person that we're talking to, of how we're going to take the tone of voice based on how they speak and what trends we're going to develop with this person and what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting to get a look into everybody's text. I felt a little bit creepy, but I think it was interesting how many things we had in common with each other and to see the patterns that develop with specific people as you adapt to how you converse with people that you have different relationships with, whether that's like a more casual tone of voice or maybe weird punctuation or no punctuation at all, or only like correct punctuation. It really differs from person to person.
Yep, I completely agree. And that's it.